Hello, Jacob. You are up last, sir.
Hi, Bart, can you hear me?
I can. Jacob is a submitter through the Fast Roll app, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
How's it going? Where are you playing out of?
good. I'm playing out of Philly live.
Philly Live. Philly Live. And what's the game that you're playing in?
2-5.
Okay, and what's the buy-in structure in this game? Is it a 1K cap?
Yeah, 1K max, and then it's like eight-handed max.
Okay, so 1K max, 8-handed. Okay. And how deep are you for this hand?
For this hand, it's actually six-handed. It's just usually it's eight-hand max, but I think they just started this table or something. So,
Okay.
so I'm 900 effective. I'm on the button with 6-4 of diamonds.
Okay.
So already, I guess one thing I can point out is this is not like my, proudest hand. Like it was kind of poorly played since the start. Like even if you look at like 6-4 diamonds, it's like, usually you probably don't want to play this hand. But my thought process was, I'm on the button. I figured, especially since we're six-handed, I could probably try to, get in for cheap, try to flop something good and make a hand.
Did you flat call a raise or what's going on in front of you
So
here?
so what happened is the under the gun player who is kind of like a fishy player, he limps for five
Okay.
and then it folds the rest of the way to me on a button and I decide to just flat, like I just limp as well, which obviously like it's not a great play, but that's just kind of what I felt like doing.
So let me give you just my very, very easy approach to preflop, which I talk about, with a lot of my subscribers here too. Now I realize it's six-handed. It's just a two blind game. A lot of times, like I'll ignore a single limp. It's a little bit different when it's more short-handed. So if I wanted to play this hand, I would raise it as if the guy didn't exist. Where I start to develop an over limp range is when two people limp in or more. Because if you're starting to raise like suited connectors after like four people limped in or gap suited connectors, is kind of just a spew. Another thing to take into account is actually the rake or slash drop structure. Now, I think Philly Live is a rake, similar to how I play in Boston, and a rake is a percentage of the pot up to a certain amount. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. There is a rake. I believe it's a $5 max and then there's like an extra $2 for.
Okay, for promos and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so where your overlimp would definitely be negative EV is in a flat drop structure like you see in card rooms in California. Because that's where if you were playing like 5-5, right, and one guy limped in and you limped in, and then the blinds checked, in a $20 pot, they would take 8. So the pot would go from 20 down to 12. Flat.
Yeah, okay.
Flat. That's a bad, bad situation. The best situation is if it's time, like in Texas. We've got several calls from Texas. This is kind of in between. I personally would raise, okay, so you overlimp, and then what happens?
So then the small blind folds and the big blind, who's actually the villain in this hand, he raises to 55. And one other thing about this guy, this is literally his first hand at the table. Like he just sits down. Like I've never played against this guy before. I've never even seen him before. Like I try to play like once a week, at least like at the casino, but then I'll also float around to different like home games. I'll play more often there, but at least at the casino, it's like I try to get there like once a week.
Okay.
And then the limper, the under the gun guy, just calls, but he was kind of doing that a lot. Like he was limp calling. So then when he calls, I figured, since I already called the 5, this guy called, I might as well just see a flop in position.
So here's my take on this spot here. So even though you're getting better pot odds, so the big blind raises to 55, the under the gun calls, right? So now the pot's like, it's like 55 for like one, whatever is in the pot, like 120, 110, something like that. Or you're already in for 5. So it's like 50, like 50 to call for like 115, and you're getting better pot odds. But this is a situation I think that people confuse a little bit where like I would rather be heads up here and get less pot odds, because if you're heads up, you get to realize more often with position. You can win with like if you flop a 4 or a 6, God forbid, if the guy's got ace king or ace queen. So unlikely that's going to be able to happen 3 ways. And then you can't even like make what would be obvious defense. Like say, for example, the board comes out like queen 4 deuce, right? And you're three ways, and the guy in the big blind bets and the other guy calls, you're really not supposed to call there. But if you're heads up, you have to call. It's a call all day. So there's that. And also, too, your hand has non-nutty properties, meaning that there's some reverse implied odds the more people that are in that spot. Like, you're not really overly concerned about the guy having like you over flushed as the pre-flop raiser with 6-4 of diamonds. But you always have to have that consideration if there's another limper in the hand. So I guess my point is that something that people don't think about a lot, like I would actually rather get less pot odds and call here heads up than multi-way. Now, with that being said, so it's 50 more for you to call. You're getting 2-1. And the other thing too, I remember talking about this when we were talking about the 15, 25, 35 time. If you have a direct suited connector, it's just so much better than a gap suited connector. Like 5-6 of diamonds, I feel like is exponentially better than 6-4 of diamonds in this particular spot. But we wouldn't have a call. It sounds to me like you called, right?
Yeah, I just call.
All right, so hero calls.
So the flop comes out 9 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs.
So you flop a pair and a flush draw?
Yeah, so pretty good flop.
Yeah, not bad.
So the weird thing about this though is the big blind checks.
Okay.
The under the gun guy checks. So then it checks to me, and I figured, with both guys checking and this flop, I wouldn't mind getting like if I got raised.
You can
I
bet
would
and
still
continue
call.
all day long.
Yeah. So I actually bet 65.
I actually like that. That was actually the size that I was kind of thinking about too. So I mean, there are some guys, not so much at the 2-5 level, that will check a lot of boards multi-way. Just because they check a board doesn't necessarily mean they don't have an overpair. That's usually at the higher stakes. Usually people will bet off because they're so petrified of losing in a given situation. So the fact that a guy checks from the big blind on a board like this usually means that they don't have anything. They could have like 7s or 8s. The fact that the under the gun guy also checks after that pre-flop raiser checks. I mean, I bet you got the best hand here anyways, a lot. But you have so much equity against anything that's going to call you here that it's fine. It's fine if you get like ace high calls. Like you don't need to blast the pot like 150. Plus, you have position too. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, I bet 65. So then it's the big blind. He calls.
Okay.
He just calls the 65, and then the under the gun guy folds.
So okay, so under the gun guy folds. So big blind calls. Now, this again, it kind of changes the hand reading a little bit here.
Yeah, I had no idea like what to really put on.
Well,
like maybe some sort of pair.
He should be stronger here than if it were heads up. Like say for example, he raised pre, the other guy folded and you called, right? Heads up, and then he check called this board. Like he can have plenty of ace highs, right? That might not see bet. Plenty of ace highs, right? Here, it's again, this just goes to like the multi-way nature of how tight you're supposed to defend. You bet 65, which is just 1/3 the size of the pot. It's probably pretty close for him to call here with any types of unpaired high cards that don't have a backdoor. Like with that guy behind him, like if he had like ace, king of hearts, well, yeah, he has to call you heads up. But with the guy behind him, it's probably pretty close. I mean, I have seen guys over defend in this spot before. And again, usually guys will bet off. They'll bet out, with overpairs in a spot like this. So it is interesting. Now, if he's got like 2 overcards and a diamond, maybe he plays that as a check call. But I think you might be sometimes still ahead. Sometimes you're behind. 130 right now, you guys put in on the flop. So now the pot's 300.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So then the turn comes out the 3 of spades.
So the turn is the 3 of spades. So it's 9, 5, 4, 3. So now you're open-ended too. You're open-ended to...
Yeah, so a pretty good card, I think.
Yeah, but the question now becomes like, how do you want to... Well, this is very interesting.
Yeah, that's why like I wanted to call this hand in because like I was just really confused.
So let me ask you a question. Did he check to you? I assume he checked.
Yes, he checked to me again.
Here's the thing that jumps out at me here. So you pick up open-ended with a 3, right? It's 9, 5, 4, 3. Okay. What's the other card that you would have picked up open-ended with? Beside, like, say it wasn't a 3, so it's 9, 5, 4, right? So what's the other card on the top end that would give you open-ended?
A 7.
A 7, okay. What's the difference between a 7 coming and a 3 if we think, when we're thinking about the big blind's range of check calling here.
Well, I guess a 3 would give him like a straight draw as well if he had an
Wheel,
ace.
yes, a wheel draw. So I would be more apt to bet this card to get value from those ace high 2 overcard wheel draws that had continued possibly on the flop. I would be more apt to bet this card than I would a 7. I think on a 7, unless I was just going to go absolutely balls to the wall with 6-4 of diamonds, and on a 7, I was just like, I'm running this into a bluff, which is probably not necessarily needed when you have a pair of 4s. I would probably be more apt to check back on a 7 that gave me open-ended than a 3, because I still think I can get value actually on a 3. And again, that is me saying that I wasn't planning on running some sort of crazy bluff. If I wanted to, like, if I was up against a guy that like I knew checked over pairs a lot multi-way, my buddy does this all the time, and I just wanted to plow through, that's different. Like if I pick up a 7, I might just be like, I'm just going to go for it. You can try to call down or what. But against most competition at this level that doesn't do that. So I would say that I still might bet like 125, something like that, to 150, whereas maybe I would check back a 7 on the turn.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But like unfortunately in the moment, I kind of froze up and I just decided to check.
Okay.
I have so many outs. It's like one of those things. It's just like, let me hit my draw and then
Sure.
go from, or whatever the river is, go from there.
Right. I think in these spots when it's close, when you have, first of all, you're just never going to really get check raised. I mean, you can sort of identify here, like, 6-7 is he raised, you're going to get check raised so infrequently. By the way, you can bet call anyways if you get check raised. The only bad thing is somehow you're up against nut diamonds, but you still have a 4 here, which is kind of interesting too. That really gets into a war if you get check raised here on turn, because it's like, wow, well, even if the guy has ace deuce, you've got a bunch of equity. If he's got the nut flush draw that's unpaired, you're still ahead of that too. What I was going to say is that whenever it's close and your hand can improve to a big hand, I like to bet. So here, again, and you can get value, right, from ace high. Like you can just go 125. The frequency of getting check raised is so slim. If he calls again, okay, now if you break out, you check back. Sometimes you win, but you still have a bunch of outs anyways to improve with one card to come with a 15, more than a 15 out draw. You've got open-ended straight draw, flush draw, plus, like say you're up against queens, right? 2 trip outs, 3 2 pair. That's a 20 out draw. 2, 3, 20, you know what I mean? So it's just like you're adding money to the pot where it's very close. Anyways, all right. So the pot remains 300. It's 9, 5, 4, 3. All right. And you have 6-4 diamonds. It's front door diamond draw. What's the river?
So the river is the 8 of diamonds.
8 of diamonds.
So yeah, I hit the flush.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the villain continues just to check.
Okay.
And then this is where I use that turn sizing on the river, because I guess I go for value now, of course, because I'm thinking I have the best hand, and I bet 130.
So I'm actually laughing here because so Hero, who's on the button, Hero bets 130. Here's the thing, because I think, again, everyone pre-submits hands. But I do try to sort of mentally check out from the results, but I kind of feel like something's going to happen here. And I want to get ahead of ourselves a little bit, or I want to think ahead here. So big blind checks, Hero bets 130. You make a flush. If somehow this guy like makes a play at you here at the river, I would find it very, very hard to believe. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. If you get check raised here, I would find it extremely hard to believe. And even though the frequency of river check raising, like at this level, is kind of small, this guy would have had to have checked the nut flush draw on the flop just as a check call, and then made it at the end and checked again. It's not like it made a one-liner on the river, like if the river was like a 7, where it was a one-liner to 6, and he's like, oh, maybe the guy's got a straight, he'll bet off. It's an 8. It's 9, 5, 4, 3, 8. So your sizing, okay, I'm just saying that a lot of times I don't even necessarily think ahead in these spots because I know that the raise is going to be so infrequent. Why like waste the mental energy? But in this spot, I'm actually thinking if you get raised here, I don't know how I'm possibly going to fold. I don't even know if that happens. But okay, so you bet 130. Okay.
Yeah, so I bet 130, and then the villain takes his time, whatever, and then eventually jams all in.
Well, I already told you. I already gave you. I just think that this is going to be like the ace of diamonds. Again, like it's so. I just think this is going to be the ace of diamonds a lot, or some sort of high diamond a lot. I mean, I know river check raises are very, very infrequent, but
I think it was just like I kind of got in my head too much, and then I started to think like I was playing my hand face up. Like when I was talking to my like buddies about this hand too, and I was telling them like I was starting to think I play my hand so face up that I just have like a weak flush or something. But then like when I was talking to them, they're like, bro, we don't even know what you're trying to represent. Like you could just have a pair of nines or something and like be betting or some two pair. So then like I didn't really think about all that, like what my hand looked like. I just thought like, this guy wouldn't be doing this with like a bluff for like this much because of the fact that like he knows that I have a flush. Cause that's what I thought. I thought like he just knew. So then I just got too much in my own head, and then, I folded.
Did he show you? Did he windmill something?
Well, so the thing about that is like when he showed or jammed all in, I asked him, I was like, "Are you going to show me one?" And then he was like looking at me and he's like, "What?" Or he said, "I'll show you one after the hand." So then like that was also like messing with me. And then anyway, I folded, and then he said, "Okay, you can pick one." So of course the one I pick is the queen of spades, and it's just like,
No.
a gut punch.
Yeah. So Nate says, Nate, whatever, author of Blueprint, great content creator, says this is a classic example of someone using the stiff ace blocker, but they would never play the nut flush draw this way.
Yeah, that's something
That's what I
my
said.
buddy was telling me too. It's like, why would he check the nut flush on the river? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, you might do that some of the time, but again, I'd have to say like the whole line itself, you talk about this conditional logic, which is like, it's like stuff from college, like philosophy. If anybody taken it, it's like mathematical stuff. It's like what if types of scenarios where it's like, it's not only that he has to check the nut flush that he made on the river, he would have had to have also checked the nut flush draw on the flop. So he would have to have just check called the nut flush draw, then checked the nut flush on the river after you checked back the turn. So you have to look at all of those. It's just I think it's way more likely that he's got the ace of diamonds,
Yeah, that's why I just wish I would have taken like a little bit more time and been like less like thinking about how I'm beat here instead, and just
Right.
think about how like his line doesn't really make any sense.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the call, Jacob. Thanks for being patient. I appreciate it.